As arts educators, we're always looking for ways to better connect with our learners. And I remember how much I used to admire the teachers who just seemed to have that magnetic personality that kids gravitated to. So much so that I tried being just like them. I tried cracking jokes, being more outgoing, but it was so awkward and my students saw right through it. And it was exhausting trying to be someone that I wasn't. What I eventually figured out was that those teachers didn't have some sort of special personality. It was their ability to create a sense of belonging. And in this video, I'm going to break down the 4 stages of belonging. And it's not just a feeling. It's not just welcoming students into your classroom or doing a few more name games and icebreakers. Creating belonging is actually a skill. And I'll share with you how you can build it so you can create real connection with your students without trying to pretend that you're somebody that you're not. But before we get into it, I'm Ashley Cuthbertson. I use the pronouns she and her, and I help arts educators and leaders confidently navigate diverse student backgrounds, needs, and abilities to create engaging arts learning experiences so that all learners develop the skills they need for success, both inside and outside the arts classroom. So let's get into it. The interesting thing about belonging is that it's one of those things that we all know when we feel it, but it's tricky to break down what it actually is and what led to us feeling that sense of belonging. And so as a result, we often talk about belonging in these really abstract, nebulous ways, sometimes like it's just a nice thing to have or something we just do at the beginning of a new school year with name games and icebreakers. And in arts classrooms, I often see teachers confusing belonging with welcoming. But welcoming students into your arts classroom is not the same thing as them feeling like they belong. So I describe it like this. If someone invites you over to their house, do you feel like you can go into their kitchen, open up their refrigerator, and make yourself a sandwich? Now, of course, someone inviting you into their home wants you to feel welcome, but being a guest and feeling welcome is one thing, and feeling like the space is yours is entirely different. Belonging is actually one of our most basic human needs, but as arts educators, sometimes we just get so excited to get to the art making, the lesson, the rehearsal, that we forget that student learning doesn't happen until belonging does. Because if the brain doesn't feel safe yet, engagement can't happen. And if engagement isn't happening, learning isn't happening either. And here's the thing that matters most for us as arts educators. Success in the arts inherently requires vulnerability. For students to really get the benefits of learning in and through the arts, they have to feel safe enough to be vulnerable with others. And not just physically safe, but also intellectually, emotionally, and socially. In a math classroom, maybe only your teacher sees that you're getting the equations wrong and not fully grasping the concepts. But in an arts classroom, your mistakes are on full display for everyone. Being willing to make mistakes publicly like that is how our young artists and musicians figure out which direction to take their work. But that first requires students to feel that they belong, no matter the kinds of mistakes that they may make. So being intentional about cultivating belonging in your arts classroom isn't a nice to have. It's actually essential for students to be successful. And it doesn't mean that you need to be the popular teacher. Take it from me, a hardcore introvert with an extrovert's job. Creating belonging isn't about personality. It's about authenticity and intentionality. So how do we get from welcoming students to creating belonging, and what do those steps look like? What I learned is that creating belonging isn't some natural ability that some of us have and some of us don't. It's not about being the loudest voice or the biggest personality or being cool or popular with your students. It's a skill, and like all skills, belonging can be broken down, it can be practiced, and it can be learned. So let me break it down for you, my 4-part framework for creating belonging in arts classrooms. The 4 parts are known, understood, support, and matter. And if you want to go deeper into creating a sense of belonging and how it's a part of creating a culturally responsive arts learning environment, that's what I unpack in my book, Music as a Vehicle. I've got the link down in the description below, so make sure you get your copy. But let's get into it. So what do each of these 4 stages of belonging look like? Let's go through them one at a time. So the first one is known. Students need to first feel known, but knowing students isn't just about knowing their names, interests, likes, or dislikes. And here's what I mean. One of my teacher friends seemed to know every student in our pre-K through 6th grade building of well over 800 kids, even the students that were nowhere near his grade level. He was typically assigned to the group of 6th graders who needed a bit more support. You know what I mean. And because he knew that they'd likely be in his class someday, he made a point of knowing who the students were in the building who might need a bit more attention. And then he just made sure to make personal connections with them. And it was nothing big, noticing when they walked by his door during morning arrival, giving a high five on the playground, saying hello when he saw them in the hallways. The key to making students feel known is not just about knowing their names, interests, likes, or dislikes. It's making sure that kids know that you see them as individuals, not as just another face in the class. The second part of the framework is understood. Students need to feel understood by their teachers. And here's where I see so many arts teachers struggle, because understanding someone is not the same as knowing them. I remember the other music teacher at my school, she made sure every football season that she knew how all of the favorite players of her students were doing. Not because she was a football fan herself, but because it helped her better understood what her students believed and their values. For instance, they believed in teamwork. And so when she needed to redirect a student, saying something like, "Your favorite player wouldn't quit on their team," it felt different than simply saying, "Get back on track." Understanding students means that you know more than just what's on the surface. You understand what's driving them, their beliefs, the way they communicate, why they're behaving the way they behave, because behavior is communication, what they value, why they value it, experiences they've had, and how those experiences have impacted them and informed the way that they move in the world. The third part of the framework is supports. We need to make sure that kids feel supported. And it's not just simplifying the work or over scaffolding things for students. It's providing the appropriate supports for the students to meet the goals. And I remember this one time watching one of the PE teachers at my school leading a reflection on the lesson they had just taught about healthy eating. When he called on this one student, he gave them what felt like an unusually long time to answer before giving a few nudges to jog that student's memory. And I very distinctly remember thinking, just tell them the answer already. But he waited, and the student got there on their own. Now, that student could have felt really flustered by feeling like they were taking too long and just given up. But the PE teacher gave them the space they needed to arrive at the answer on their own, even though it was a different amount of space than other students had needed. And that's really what providing support is about. Every learner is different, and that means the kinds of support we provide need to be different as well, while still maintaining high expectations for every student, because students really will rise to whatever expectation we have for them. And then finally, we get to the fourth part of the framework, which is matter. Students need to feel that they matter. And that's truly what belonging is. Belonging is knowing that you matter to people, that people care whether you show up or not, that they care about your opinion and your voice, that you don't have to change who you are just to fit into a space. And it's not enough to tell students that they matter, because anybody can say that. They have to feel it. I remember I had to learn that the hard way. This one day I stopped a student during dismissal who was absent from my choir rehearsal that morning. And when I mentioned that we had missed her from rehearsal that day, she said, "I didn't even think anybody would notice I wasn't there." That hurt to hear. But I also realized I hadn't created an environment where students knew they were an integral part of the success of our class. I hadn't created an environment where they knew that they mattered. So we have to show it in the ways we talk to them, in the routines we create for them, and in the learning experiences that we design. They need to feel that we have considered them in every aspect of the way we set up our classroom, the way we decide on our curriculum, and the way that we teach it. So consider this. How are you building a community of arts learners where every learner, along with their unique strengths and their needs, matters to the success of the community? Not because you say that it matters, but because of how you are designing it. So take it from me, a card-carrying member of the Introverts Club who was never the most popular teacher. Creating belonging isn't this abstract thing that only big personality teachers innately have. It's a skill that can be broken down, practiced, and learned. I know it because I did it. And I've worked with arts educators all over the country to be able to do it in their arts classrooms as well. I also put together a resource for you if you'd like to go further into my framework for belonging, and it's called the Belonging Self-Assessment Tool for Arts Classrooms. It's a free download. It comes with simple routines for all 4 of those stages across all arts disciplines, so music, visual art, dance, and theater. So when you're thinking about each of these stages, I made it so you're not staring from a blank page. You've got prompts, space to really think intentionally about how you're cultivating a sense of belonging with your students. And here's my challenge to you. Take even 10 minutes this week to complete the self-assessment and get intentional about how you're going to cultivate belonging in your arts classroom all year long, not just some icebreakers and name games the first few days of school. I've got the link to that resource in the description below. So, creating belonging doesn't need to be this nebulous, abstract thing. It's not about being the cool teacher or the teacher with the biggest personality. And it's not some innate natural thing that some of us have and others don't. It's also not something that only happens at the beginning of the school year with name games and icebreakers. Belonging is a skill that can be broken down, practiced, and learned just like any other skill. It just requires you to be intentional each class period all year long. I love to hear how this is resonating with you. So let me know, which step of the belonging framework do you feel most confident in, and which step are you going to work to strengthen? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments and let me know. I can't wait to see. And don't forget, if you want to go deeper into how belonging creates a culturally responsive learning environment in your arts classroom, be sure to get a copy of my book, Music as a Vehicle. The link to that is down below as well. And if you want more real examples and real frameworks just like this one every week, be sure to join my newsletter community. The Weekly Notes newsletter is where I go deep each week to share the thinking, tools, and real arts classroom examples behind culturally relevant and responsive arts education for arts teachers, school and district leaders, and the college professors preparing the next generation of arts educators. The link to join the newsletter is below as well. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And now that you know more about building belonging in arts classrooms, you might also be wondering about how to run the day-to-day. And that starts with understanding the difference between traditional classroom management, which can backfire a bit in creative arts classrooms, and what I call classroom facilitation. I actually created a video where I break that down, so be sure to check that one out next. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.